start the record on this session. And incidentally, you can, the GoToMeeting panel, that takes quite a bit of your desktop. If you want to minimize it, the two arrows up on the upper right next to the X act as a toggle switch so that you can click on that, it will minimize it, click on it again, it blows it back up.
All right, sounds good. Hey, I'll be right back, okay?
Okay.
All right, I'll be right back. All right, my dad's brother just got to our house, so.
Okay, does that affect you at all?
What?
You want to start with 1?
Sure.
Okay, what's the first step? Over here I've rewritten the equation.
Do you add 5 or add 7 to both sides?
Add 7. In other words, whatever that number is doing, you want to do the opposite. You could have subtracted 5 from both sides also, but adding 7 works. So now we get this. Next step.
Then you would subtract 2 from both sides, or 2x.
What's the next line? Always read me the next line.
So it would be 12 equals 6x.
And the next line?
And then it would be x equals 2.
Correct. Okay, how about this one here? What's the first step to do in this problem? It's not always obvious. I kind of
maybe.
Go ahead.
No, what were you going to say?
Well, there's 2 things that I almost always do first in any equation like this. 1,
Okay.
Get rid of denominators. 2, get rid of parentheses. So there are no denominators, so the only thing you have to do is get rid of those parentheses before we can proceed. What's the next line?
I think maybe subtract 7 from both sides.
Get rid of parentheses. Get rid of those parentheses. Until we get rid of those parentheses, we really can't proceed. And I'll show you why. Get rid of the parentheses. In other words, distribute that negative sign to both terms. What do you end up with?
I'm not sure.
Well, the minus goes to the 3x, so you get minus 3x. And the minus goes to the minus 2, giving you plus 2.
Okay.
Now I got rid of the parentheses and I can proceed. What's the next thing to do?
And maybe you could subtract 2 from both sides.
Well, how about we combine all of our numbers that are on the same side of the equation? In other words, we have a 7 and a 2. Let's make that 9. Let's do that as our next step. One thing at a time. In other words, there's no reason to subtract 2 from both sides and then subtract 7 from both sides. Let's combine the 2 and the 7 first.
Okay.
Now what?
Maybe subtract 5 from both sides.
So now we have this. Now what?
Add 3x to both sides.
Good. So what's the next line?
4 equals 3x.
You have a minus x plus a 3x, right?
Uh-huh.
In other words, when you added 3x to both sides, it left 4 on the left side.
Yeah.
On the right side, you have minus 1x plus 3x. Well, how many x's is that?
4 x's?
Minus 1 plus 3,
X's?
2. Now, the final line.
2
Right.
x? 2 equals x?
Yeah. Now, I notice they have a check here. Well, so let's check this. In other words, I'm saying that x equal 2. Well, does that work? If I plug in 2 for x, is that a proper equation? 7 minus 3 times 2 minus 2, is that equal to 5 minus 2? Okay. Well, always work from the inside out. So we have 7 minus, no, not 6, 4, right? 6 minus 2, that should be 4. Is that equal to 5 minus 2? Is that a true statement?
Yeah.
That's a good check. That's all we need to do to check.
All right.
All right, let's look at number 3. What's the first thing to do?
Distribute the 2.
Yep, get rid of parentheses.
Okay.
What's the next line? Distribute
2x.
Go ahead.
Maybe 2x minus 12.
Uh-huh. That's all you do. When you distribute a number, you just multiply it by every term that's inside the parentheses. Okay?
Alrighty.
The next thing we're going to do.
Maybe
Let me
subtract the x.
Yes, let me stop you here for a moment. In every equation, at some point, you have to decide whether you're going to put your x's on the right and your numbers on the left, or are you going to do it the other way around?
Alright.
Either one is correct. Okay? But you always want to deal with positive numbers if you can.
Yeah.
And so it makes more sense to take this x that's on the left and move it to the right by subtracting x from both sides than it does to take this 2x and subtract 2x from both sides. If we subtract 2x from both sides, we're going to have a negative coefficient in front of our x. Try to avoid that if you can. So the way I tend to think of this problem is I'm going to move my x's to the right and I'm going to move my numbers to the left. Well, when I do that, what do I end up with? When I move my x's to the right, that's what I get.
Yeah.
When I move my numbers to the left, what do I get?
9.
Yep. Do you have a calculator in front of you, Brianna?
I do not.
You know what? For a while, let's leave it like that.
Alrighty.
At some point in time, I may ask you to bring your calculator to these sessions. Usually sooner than later, but as long as we're just started, I want to check your math skills, your arithmetic skills here. And the best way to do that is if you're doing these without a calculator.
All right.
Okay. Now, I'm going to write this one fully out. Hopefully I have enough room. More complicated than the others, but that doesn't really make it tougher. Just means there's more steps.
Uh-huh.
All right, first step. What are my first two rules?
Do the parentheses first.
Get rid of parentheses and denominators. In fact, denominators, let's go back a moment. I'm going to give you another problem. In fact, let's, hold on a moment. Let me see what the best way to do this is. I'm just going to draw a line between it. I'm going to write another problem here in red. If I gave you this problem, notice that we have both denominators and parentheses. Which one are we going to get rid of first?
Parentheses?
No. If I distribute this, I get something quite complicated that looks like this. Well, notice that if I get rid of the denominators first, it's going to turn into a much simpler problem. What can I multiply both sides by to get rid of this denominator?
Maybe
4.
4.
You see how 4 will get rid of the 1/4?
Yeah.
What would I multiply this side over here by to get rid of the 1/3?
3.
Yeah. What if I multiply both sides by 12? Always remember in algebra, you can multiply, you can do anything you want to one side of the equation as long as you do it to the other. Well, 12 is a common denominator between 3 and 4, right?
Yeah.
Now, what happens to the left? What is 12 divided by 4?
What is what?
12 divided by 4.
I think 3?
3. So I can make that look like this. That's what the left side turned into. What's the right side turn into? What's 12 divided by 3?
4.
Now, that's what that problem turned into, which is a whole lot easier looking than what it started out as, right? In other words,
yeah.
Whenever you have fractions, it makes it complicated. You got to get rid of them. And you do it by multiplying. Usually, if I didn't have this 1/3 over here, then all I would have had to do is multiply both sides by 4. But since I have a 1/4 over here and a 1/3 over here, if I wanted to get rid of both fractions at the same time, then I got to multiply by the least common denominator, which is 12. And that turns it into that. Now what?
Distribute?
Yeah, now you'd get rid of parentheses. So the rule really that I have is get rid of denominators first, parentheses second. Okay. Now this problem doesn't have any denominators, so it's all we need to do is get rid of the parentheses. What's the next line?
Are we working on the...
Yeah, the 5 times x plus 4, the thing you should be able to see on my screen.
Okay, so, first you could distribute.
What's the next line?
5x plus 20 minus 3x plus 11
Equals?
Equals 2, or no, equals 6x minus 10. minus 3x.
Okay, now what?
Um, combine like terms.
Yes, perfect. I was just going to say that exact expression. So let's just work on one side at a time. Let's not try to do too much at once. So when I combine like terms on the left side, what do I have?
31.
Combine the x's first, because that's, in other words, go left to right. Start with the 5x. Are there any other x's on that side? Yes, there's a minus 3x. What's 5x minus 3x?
2x.
And combine the two numbers.
Plus 31.
Okay, now do the same thing on the right.
3x minus 10.
And the next step.
See, we could add 10 to 31.
Okay. And this is the one time I don't mind you doing two steps at once. In other words, we're bringing all of our numbers to the left. We're going to take all of our x's to the right. How many x's do I have on the right now?
1x.
There's your answer.
Okay.
Okay. Now, I'm going to take you to a website. We only have a few minutes and I have a 5 o'clock session, so I can't run over, but I would like you to go to this website. I'm going to copy and paste it into the chat window.
All right.
Click on it.
Okay.
And it should bring up a window very similar to the one you see on my screen.
Yeah.
Save it as a favorite on your computer.
All right.
Okay, now let's talk about it. What I want you to do here is only click on the 1 by 1s. You see where it says 1 by 1 or 2 to 1?
Yeah.
And in the bottom 2. What this is going to do is give you practice in addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division of single-digit numbers. For example, holler out what these are as soon as you know what they are. Minus 3 plus minus 4. I'll type it in.
Negative 7.
Next one.
Wouldn't.
No calculator.
No.
Any number multiplied by 1 is equal to what?
Well, isn't it a negative 1?
Yeah, no. This negative 11 times 1.
So then that would be negative 11.
In other words, any number multiplied by 1 is equal to that number. Okay, what's 2 minus 5?
Negative 3.
This is division, that funny little radical sign that they use. What's 70 divided by minus 10?
Maybe negative 7.
Good. It's 99 divided by, excuse me, what's minus 99 divided by 11?
Negative 9.
Okay. I asked you to save this on your computer so that maybe put in 5 minutes a day on this thing.
Okay.
And you will be amazed, and I mean amazed, with how much difference it makes in your math results.
Okay.
The foundation for good math, whether it's algebra, geometry, pre-calc, trig, doesn't matter. You have to, absolutely have to be excellent at your single digit by single digits.
Yeah.
In other words, you should be able to go through these quickly without thinking very hard, without making any mistakes. And
Uh-huh.
if you put in 5 minutes a day doing this, you'd be amazed. At the end of 1 week, you'll be almost perfect.
Okay.
Okay? And the true, my truth that I really believe in is that it's pretty much impossible for anybody to be good at math who is not good at this.
Uh-huh.
Okay? And some people, you'd be amazed. I've got a pre-calc student that can't do these. She has to use a calculator. And she's managed to go pretty far using that calculator, but you have to really be good at using that calculator. You have to know how to use it and how to use it with positive and negative numbers. But most people, even that is not a good substitute for doing math. When you are doing algebraic equations like this, like it's on this page, you'll notice that for every problem we have to do 5 or 6 simple. You have to multiply 5 times 4, you have to subtract 3 from 5, you had to add 11, you had to multiply 2 times 3, you had to multiply 2 by minus 5. You see what I'm saying? There are so many single-digit calculations that have to be made just for one equation that if you have to rely on a calculator, you're almost dead from the get-go. It's just almost impossible to do it using a calculator. And it's way slow. In other words, if you don't want to be super slow, then you want to be able to do these in your head. But the thing is, you got to be 100% accurate, because the first time you make a mistake, you're going to resort back to the calculator, right? I mean, if in your head you're only getting 9 out of 10 of them, well, you take a test, you're going to use the calculator for all 10 of them. Make sure you get the right answer. The problem with that is that once you do that, you lose the ability of being able to do it in your head. In other words, anybody that's used a calculator for long really does completely lose the ability to do these things in your head. And you don't want to lose that ability. You want to maintain that ability. Just because it's so vital for doing math of any kind.
Yeah.
So I would definitely recommend you spend some time on that A+ Math site that I gave you. And then next time we'll go from there. Let's see. I have an email address. I'm recording this session, and I will send a link to you